All right, we're live. You know, I love these lives because it gives an opportunity for all of you out there to ask questions. I have a great show for us today. I got all sorts of news items. The best part is Ryan will have almost zero idea what I'm bringing forward. It's just a couple items he knows in advance, but everything else is going to be live commentary. We're going to be discussing some of the top news items. And before we begin, we're going to get Ryan to introduce himself. But even before that, I want to make sure that the audio is working for everybody. And then we're going to start the show.
Hey, thanks. Greetings, Ryan. I like that. That's awesome. Everyone can hear good?
All right, everybody here, we're good. I think we're good. Sounds great. Okay, we got some... All right. So many of you don't know Ryan, so this is a perfect opportunity to introduce this guest. He has all sorts of political experience and he has a story behind that experience. So I'd love for him to introduce himself. Go for it, Ryan.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Painter. I'm the host of the Political Pulse podcast, but I also have been working in politics for much of the last 25, 26 years. I was formerly an NDPer for 23, 24 of those years. People might be shocked to learn that from that time, actually officially January 27th, 2023 was the day I ended my NDP membership. And I've come over to join the Conservatives provincially in British Columbia and federally. I was actually at the Federal Conservative Convention in Calgary, my very first Conservative convention with the federal party. It was quite a trip, and I have been working as a communications staffer, run national election campaigns in Ontario, as well as Nova Scotia and British Columbia. So I have quite a history. I was elected myself as a school trustee and school board chair here in Victoria from 2018 till 2022. So it's very exciting to be here. It's very exciting to talk to you, Mark, and to see all of the folks in the chat and to see what you've got for me today. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, I'll be honest, to see what you're gonna throw at me, but we'll see how I fare.
No, it's going to be a lot of fun, not to worry. And we're going to get everybody in the audience included in the discussion. So it's not just you, it'll be everybody out there. You guys are going to be able to participate in this. It's a lot of fun. I see some people talking about the pleb. The pleb's on vacation. He'll be back and we're going to do some lives. He's excited for that. So I want to hear the story of how you went from NDP to Conservative, because I think that's important for people to understand. And that's a unique perspective, I believe, on where the nation is going. So,
yeah, thanks, Mark. So let's go back to 2023. I was 18 years old. I've given away my age. And I was scrolling through the channels. I stumbled upon CPAC, ran into what was Jack Layton's acceptance speech when he won leadership of the NDP. He was saying a lot of things that I identified with as an 18-year-old. Certainly, someone who came from a working class background, someone who his family worked in unions and was very strongly pro union, blue collar workers, things like that. So it was a natural connection for me. He was talking about a lot of unifying things as someone who was looking to going into university. It was they were things that very much resonated with me and what Jack said. So I joined that day and really didn't look back from that point. And I started working my way through the volunteer circles, volunteer ranks of the party, became a paid staffer in 2013, and kind of watched my career in the party go from there. I became a national level executive, national level counselor for the party, provincially in BC, where I am. In Victoria, became a provincial councillor, provincial executive of the party. But what I saw and what I experienced, and we can certainly get into some of the minutiae here, but what I saw starting in 2017, certainly with Jagmeet Singh, was the party moving more towards an ideological focus. What I really saw as kind of this oppressor-oppressed narrative and certainly a very divisive politics, which isn't why I got involved in politics. I'm very much someone who wants to unify, bring people together, and make things better. I didn't see that happening from Jagmeet Singh. I saw him very much kind of moving towards a place where it's really othering all kinds of groups and dividing segments of Canadian society against each other. And I saw it as extremely cynical. Um, you know, and so I started to kind of question where I was and where I landed, and make no mistake, at the time I was extremely orthodox within the NDP. I drank the proverbial Kool-Aid, if you will. I very much forced myself to agree with and believe things that I might have otherwise not agreed with and believed in, but I did it because I was paid staff. I was wanting to control and maintain kind of access to paid opportunities, and so I didn't speak out. What started getting me to speak out, though, was incidences, and starting in 2017, 2018, of rising anti-Semitism in the NDP. Now, I'm not Jewish, but that shouldn't matter. I am someone who, though, definitely sees the plight of Jews, not only in Canada and globally, but also sees Israel and Israel's right to exist as fundamental to, I think, any common, decent human. And so I started talking about these issues within the NDP. And it became very obvious very quickly from people high up in the party that they did not want to talk about the growing anti-Semitism within the NDP. And I was told in no uncertain terms to stop talking about it. I didn't. I spoke very loudly at the 2018 AGM, and then at the, I think there was a 2020 AGM that was kind of their COVID one. I spoke very publicly against boycott, divestment, and sanctions, these resolutions that were being pushed by the pro-Hamas section of the NDP. I got much louder, and as I was getting louder, I noticed that I was getting marginalized within the party. They were starting to push me aside and push me aside. And I just thought I can't keep aligning myself with a group that on this issue, on the issue of anti-Semitism, they are so fundamentally and foundationally anti-human and anti what I see as the right path to take, and very much I think steeped in anti-Semitism. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I think kind of the ideological framing of the party, how they drew themselves away from working class concerns and more towards concerns that aligned with academics and with urban white collar workers. Not who I was, not where I came from. And I do say, you know, people will ask me about this a lot. I say, I didn't leave the party left me. And I think that's very much true. Finding my way to the Conservatives was not automatic. I did look at the federal Liberals, and I thought, is this somewhere where I belong? Because again, at the age of 38, when I left, I've been a member for 23, 24 years. I didn't really know where I belonged at that point. So I kind of was looking around and thought, provincially, where do I belong? Federally, where do I belong? And eventually I landed with the Conservatives, largely because I saw Pierre Poilievre as really dialing in to the working class concerns of blue collar people, but not just blue collar people, hardworking Canadians everywhere. And so I found a natural home there. And then provincially, I found a home there as well.
Yeah, you know what? That's the thing, is that all these parties, and that's another thing that Canadians need to realize, is parties change. Like the Liberals used to be more in the center, and that's why they were a safe vote. But they've gone so far left that they've actually eliminated the NDP altogether. So NDP now has to find a new area to play. So they go even further left, and that's why we're seeing that they're, you know, pandering to the different groups, and you know, that's how they're trying to get their support. And if they want to become relevant again, they have to go back to their roots, which I believe is to fight for the workers in this country. But it doesn't look like that's where they're going, unfortunately. So,
well, and you have Avi Lewis, who's currently looking like he's the front runner. He made a comment, I think last year, about men in work camps in I think it was in Alberta, and I don't have the quote in front of me, but it was something about how they're more prone to sexually assault women, and I was just like, holy shit, like, pardon my language, but these are people who are working their asses off. Has he ever been to a work camp and actually spent weeks and weeks and weeks, like 12, 13, 14-hour days in a work camp in the north? I'm not saying that there's not concerns in these places, but for goodness sakes, certainly we can look at ways to talk about them without demonizing an entire group of people that are up there working their butts off to drive Canada's economy. So to me, that's a prime example of a party that has absolutely abandoned blue collar working class people. And that you see it federally too with the votes, right? Like, look, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives took away 11 NDP seats in the last election. That shows you that I'm not the only one. I might be one of the loudest and one of the most kind of, I guess, recognizable in institutional language, but it's happening all over the place. There are people who definitely don't have, I don't want to say the confidence, but because time within the NDP, here's the thing about the NDP, they are so rigid and controlling that if you try to speak out at all, they will slam the lid down on you, and they will punish you for speaking out. They'll punish you for opposing anything. It is so typical of the left to be controlling of how people are and what people say, right? So I just think they're in a place now where they're completely disconnected from the realities of working people. If we went into an election today, the NDP would get fewer seats than they won in the last election. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah, so you don't think that there's somebody that could take the realms and, bring them back to the traditional 23% of the vote? Or
I think Rob Ashton would be the best choice. He's a longshore worker. He talked positively about resource workers, about pipelines. He's someone who if I were still in the party, I could see myself supporting him. He's not perfect, though. I mean, look, no one's perfect. Like, this is politics, guys. We're all people, we're all human, and politics it can be a really challenging system for people to work and operate in. But strip everything away from that, I think Rob would be the best choice for the party to actually try to recover some of its working class blue collar roots, and actually provide a bit of foundational grounding to rebuilding that party. But if they go to Aubie Lewis, if they go to Heather McPherson, if they go to Tenniel Johnson, I don't think that's possible. But these are folks who, for me, they are that super, you want to call them woke left, identity politics, oppressor oppressed, dividing types of leaders that aren't going to rebuild that party.
Perfect. Okay, let's start the news segment. The first 3 items I got today, Ryan knows about them, but after that, it's all going to be discovery for him. So the show's going to get more interesting as it goes on. We're going to start off with a tweet that was shared by Wyatt Claypool. All right. So Wyatt Claypool did a tweet here. Ryan, do you want to, and it's regarding the Jamil Javani, where he came, Jamil Javani, the liberal strategist, Dave Hurley, he insulted Jamil Javani, calling him too unattractive physically to be as successful in politics.
Yeah, that wow. So there's a lot I can say about this. So first off, Wyatt Claypool, a lot of folks here will know him. Wyatt's a great guy. I've had an opportunity to be on podcasts with him before. He and I have had some disagreements on policy and positioning, but I generally respect and appreciate the work that Wyatt does. And he basically says here that David Hurl just doesn't like Jamil Javani, which is why he's going after him as being unattractive. And look, for folks who don't know, here's the context. David Hurley on his show, which is specifically, he's got a couple shows. The Curse of Politics show that he does, he brings on strategists to kind of go into the back rooms to discuss the realities of backroom politics, which is where I've spent most of my political life. But what he says is that Jamil Javani is too unattractive to be successful in politics. And that hit me hard. Now, something else your folks won't know. I was born with something called a cleft lip and palate. Now, that meant I was born with half of my upper lip and an incomplete roof of my mouth. Required quite a few surgeries from the age of, I think it was about 2 months old until 18 years old. I had several surgeries, and it resulted in a little bit of I don't want to call it disfigurement, but certainly some disabilities, and I didn't look all that great growing up. I was bullied quite a bit because of it. I'm fortunate that I've come through, and I think generally speaking, I look passable, but to target someone for how they look is disgusting. And David Hurley has since come out and apologized for it, which I think was the right thing to do. And so I don't want to bash on the guy too much, but his instinct was to talk about the fact that in politics we do talk about how people look, and we do talk about how they present. Is there a way he possibly could have said this better? I'm not sure. He should have taken into account that the guy's a cancer survivor. I don't know. Do I think Jamil Javani is a bad looking guy? No, I don't. But I also don't think about how people look when I'm thinking about what I'm going to do when I vote. I think most people are looking at what they're saying. What are their policies? What are their platforms? What do they want to do to make this country better? And so it was a pretty disgusting take, and I think Wyatt's take here was spot on. I think David Hurley just doesn't like Jamil Javani, and that's why he said what he said and put his foot in his mouth.
Yeah, so he came out and apologized. I don't know if you saw the apology. That was the most pathetic apology I've ever seen. I'm like, and you know what was interesting about his apology is he waited till the very end to actually state why he was apologizing.
That's right. It wasn't off the top of the show. Yeah, that's right.
At the end, he said it's because he embarrassed his colleagues. He's like, I'm so sorry for putting you in this mess and embarrassing you. But the thing is like Scott Reed, he was encouraging the insults. So he's just as capable as Dave was. And he didn't apologize. He's just, when the apology occurred, he's like, you don't have to apologize. You can see it in his face.
Well, and look, Mark, the truth is we have these conversations in back rooms in politics about candidates and what do they offer and how do you present a candidate well and how do we put a candidate up. You talk about taking glasses off and getting haircuts and wearing different suits and getting laser eye surgery and there's all kinds of conversations like this that happen in politics, right? So let's put that aside. The public isn't really aware of these conversations, and I understand that that's why he does this curse of politics thing. But to be that bald-faced and just say he's too unattractive, like what really shocked me was some of the responses from those on the left who would have been apoplectic if that had been said about a woman, that had been said about a trans person, if that had been said about anybody else. They would have come down and brought absolutely reasonably the hammer down on David Hurley or whoever for saying that. No, but because it's Jamil Javani, he's totally okay to say it.
But he's a cancer survivor. Isn't that part of a group that should be, you don't go there, right? That's just not right.
I think you're raising an interesting point there, Mark. Like, I do think that there are places where we go in politics today that normally we wouldn't and shouldn't go. I think we'll probably get into the Matt Generu stuff, and I have some opinions there as well. But I think that social media has put us into a place where we've really become so kind of toxically divided that we really do see people as others, and we can kind of attack them for whatever thing we want to attack them for. I don't think that that's right. That's one of the reasons why I left the NDP, because I don't believe in that kind of the orthodoxy of always agreeing and just kind of letting your mind be subsumed by an ideology. I'm not orthodox now that I'm with the conservatives. I'll be very happy to criticize when they do something wrong I disagree with, and I think everyone should look to do that.
Yeah, you could argue people's policies or their stance on things, but when you start insulting people's appearance or look, it just shows that you don't have an argument and you're just mad at somebody, and that's what we saw. Let's move on to.
He was accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to your second piece, and I believe you said that you attended the Iran protests in Vancouver. Is that correct?
No, I didn't. But
or you just covered it.
I didn't even really cover it. I watched it. I know people who were there. I thought it was remarkable to see the community come out in support of the Iranian community, and to see the Jewish community come out too. There were lots of Israeli flags there as well, and I think it's really a wonderful thing. And it wasn't just Vancouver. I think there were some in Toronto as well. It is a wonderful thing to see that, especially when we've looked at the last 2 or 3 years and we've seen all the pro Hamas tribe occupy so much of our city streets for something that is so disgusting, in terms of supporting Hamas and their murdering of 12,000 Israeli citizens and kidnapping 240. Here, to actually see people come out to support Iran, and in many cases supporting bringing in the son of the former Shah, Reza Pahlavi, to actually say, look, Reza needs to be brought in to adjudicate a transition somewhere here. So I think it's fascinating. I think it's amazing. I think you saw Trevor Halford, who's the interim leader of the BC Conservatives. You saw Lynn Block, who's the member for West Vancouver Capilano, the Conservative MLA. They were there speaking to the crowd and to the audience. It was just a really fantastic display to see the community out in support of the Iranian diaspora in Vancouver.
Yeah, you know what? I love the Iranian people across Canada. They're fantastic people. I have friends that are Iranian. They're the sweetest, kindest people, so generous, and we can learn a lot from them. And it's wonderful to see everybody come together and have the flags and show the support for the Iranian people. Let's take a look at this was in Vancouver. So Toronto had the largest show of support. So we're going to probably take a look at that second, but first we're going to take a look at Vancouver here and take a look at this. So Ryan, do you know how many people showed up in Vancouver?
Oh, you know what? I should have looked up the final numbers, but I believe I saw estimates that it was in the thousands. Like,
who was this gentleman that was speaking? Do you know? So this, do you know any of these people here?
I don't. I know I can see Trevor Halford off on the right. He's wearing the black coat there, but I'm not sure who's up there speaking. I know one of the leadership candidates, the BC Conservative leadership candidates, happened to get up and speak. That I don't know if that's him speaking there or not. But yeah, it's. I'm not too sure who that is, unfortunately.
Yeah, no worries. We're going to take a look now at the other one, which is the largest protests I've ever seen in Canada. Over 350,000. Some people were saying that it was close to 500,000, but 350,000, I believe, is more accurate. But we'll take a look at this one in Toronto.
My boy Adam Zivo.
All right.
Yeah, Adam's amazing. If you guys don't follow Adam Zevo, he's a he actually has a show called Breaking the Needle. And he also does really good reporting for the National Post. Just an absolute stand-up guy. Definitely follow him. He's capital.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see. And there's someone comment how many Canadian flags. You know, the one thing about the Canadian flags and on Canada Day is during the pandemic, they saw that the Canadian flag, if you're anti-Canadian, if you fly Canadian flag, and now all the elbows up, there might be lots of Canadian flags this Canada Day because now having a Canadian flag is all of a sudden patriotic. So
I put up so it's actually wild that you say that, Mark, because I've lived in my house here for 4 or 5 years in Victoria. Growing up back in Vernon in the Okanagan, my dad put up a flagpole in the house. I didn't have a Canadian flag up, not because I didn't feel proudly patriotic and Canadian, just because it's not something that I got around to doing. But last year I did, and I put one up. And I put the flag up, and I brought my wife out, and she was kind of like, okay, yeah, put the flag up. And she looked at the flag, and my wife too, who is like me, like we're proud Canadians, but we're not, we're not overly nationalistic. She looked at it and she said the flag needs to be bigger. So I went out and I got a bigger flag and put it up. So I think we got the biggest flag that Canadian Tire could give us, and it's hanging up now.
Nice. So actually, you know what? People say, I'm glad we're figuring this out now. People say they can't hear the audio. So I'm going to try to change some of for the videos. So I'm going to try to change some of these settings to get us the audio.
Yeah, hopefully we can get that working.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to change a couple things here. Let's test this out. So I just made a change. Let's go back to this video. Let's see if we could see the
joys of live streaming. And
I know. You know what?
Stuff,
and
right?
So this is my second live stream this year. I'll be doing a lot more live streams. They're a lot of fun. We could have live discussions, but obviously there's some learning curve to get all the equipment correct. It was way worse before. Now we could actually hear the speakers. Before, nobody could hear what we were saying. So let's see if this is if you could hear it now.
So I can't hear him. I'm not sure if others can or not, but
can you guys hear that? So we'll see if the audience can hear. There's like a 15-second lag from the live, so we'll hear if it worked. If it worked, then it will be still no. All right, we're going to change a couple more settings. Hold up. Sorry, guys. You can keep talking to the audience while I figure out what audio.
Thanks for your patience, guys. This is the fun of doing stuff. I'll let you guys know who are watching. This is my favorite mug. So I'm going to read it to you so you know what it says. It says left UG, noun, the unfortunate victim of cancel culture, fleeing from the political left to find refuge in the party that supports free speech and common sense. And on the other side, it says, left UG, a former progressive who became politically homeless when champagne socialists espousing luxury beliefs pushed radical ideologies over evidence-based policies. And that absolutely explains, I think, a core tenet and a core belief of why I left the NDP. And, well, I say the NDP left me, but I actually formally cut ties with them, is because it's really easy when you're in an ivory tower and when you're in an academic institution or you're working in a blue collar office to push and espouse luxury beliefs on folks, whether it's ideological things like decriminalization and safe supply, or whether it gets as far as issues around allowing minors to transition their gender. It's really easy to amplify and advocate for those things when you can divide people that way. It's an easy thing to do, and it's a lot harder to bring people together around economic concerns. So that's why I left, and I'm proud to do so. It's now my favorite mug. For those in BC who know, this was given to me by Gwen O'Mahony, who was a former NDP MLA who ran for the BC Conservatives in the last provincial election. So, Mark, how we doing?
Let's try it out again. So we'll see if that worked. And if it works, then we're ready to go for the next segment of our news.
I think it's paused. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but it looks like it's not playing.
No. Okay. So we're gonna try another thing. So the settings, the thing is that I have to, there's like tons of settings. So I'm just doing one below it to see if it fixes the.
So I'll keep riffing. So someone here said, is Jason safe supply? How's that working out? Well, not great, Jason. So here in BC, safe supply was advocated for by David Eby in 2024. It was 2023 rather. It was brought in because of an exemption that the feds gave. Seeing how desperately, brutally it didn't work, actually caused the issue of safe supply drugs to start being traded and pushed on the streets, coming from pharmacies actually, and being traded and pushed onto the streets. Begged the federal government to re-legalize drugs. So first, begged to decriminalize, then begged to decriminalize because it went so wrong. So it didn't go well, Jason. It didn't go well at all. As many other NDP policies go. Mark, I'll keep going here. You can feel free.
Yeah, let's check it out. Let's test it out right now. Let's see if it works. Could you hear that when I played it?
I didn't. No, I didn't hear.
Okay.
So where was I going with that? I was going safe supply, talked about that. Oh, you know what? This is something I said. I said this on a podcast the other day. I'm a compassionate person. I think most Canadians can very easily say that they're compassionate. And I think what happens is leftists largely use compassion and an overabundance of compassion. I'm not saying compassion is not right, but they use an overabundance of compassion as policy, assuming that compassion is going to make good public policy. And the problem with that is compassion doesn't necessarily result in good policy outcomes on the ground. And that's what happened with safe supply and decriminalization. It's what's happened with SOGI. It's what's happened with things like medical assistance in dying and MAID, when you actually have governments saying that mental health is a reason for looking at people to end their lives. Compassion is not policy. Compassion is a good feeling. It's a good emotion, but it doesn't necessarily result in good, sound policy that moves society forward.
Awesome. Okay, so let's there's only a few more options here. Can you speak a bit more? If you could hear that. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah, Kyle says safe supply has done nothing but keep addicts intense on college and young. It's true. I mean, in BC, in the last provincial election in 2024, the former leader, John Rustad, pushed for actually ending safe consumption sites and pushing for treatment. And he got brutally attacked for that stance. But ask me what's more compassionate: allowing people to have free drugs and allowing people to continuously inject themselves and do drugs and languish on the street in perpetual hell. These we're talking about mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, family members, allowing them to languish in that situation, or treating them and getting them home. You tell me what the more compassionate position is. I think it's obvious.
Okay. Let's see if this will. Can everybody hear me? Let's see if this one will work.
I can hear you. Yep. I can hear you.
Apologize for, Nope. You don't hear it?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, it's just too bad that I'm not able to get this audio perfect for everyone so that we could do our news segment. But we could just keep talking, and we'll.
We can just keep talking. We can even. I think there's a few that. Actually, no, you know better than I do. You probably got some sound on some of yours that you'd like to play out. But I can freely keep riffing. Why doesn't everyone in the chat? Because this would be really cool to know. I've said I'm from BC. Why don't in the chat, folks, type where you're from? If you want to say your city, that's great. If you want to just say province, that's great too. It'd be great to know where people are from here, so we can get a sense of where folks are coming into this this live stream. Because Canada is a big place. So just throw in the chat where you're from. Ottawa, Yukon, Nanaimo. Hey, there we go. On Vancouver Island with me. I love that. Manitoba, Toronto, Ontario, Niagara, Innisfil. Lots of Ontarians. That's cool. Windsor, West Kootenays. Awesome. West Kootenays. My wife was born in Cranbrook. I don't think that's in the West Kootenays. I think that's in the East Kootenays. But Princeton, Watson Lake, Soho. Hey, Salmon Arm. Wanda Hall from Vernon. I was born in Vernon. So we've got we've got a fellow Vernonite on the chat here. That's amazing. Nice to see you, Wanda. Vernon's a wild place. My mom and her wife still live there. That's right, guys. I've got two moms. That's not how it started, but that's how it is right now. So that's awesome. Sunshine Coast, Alberta, Nova Scotia, Newmarket. Did I see recently someone said that Canadian, because the Canadian American women's gold medal game is on right now. I think I saw someone said the Canadians are up 1-0. So that's awesome. Go Canada, go. Cranbrook is East Kootenays. Thanks, Sandy. That's kind of what I thought. Alberta bound, Vancouver, shoe swap. Shoe swap's great. Chase. A lot of British Columbians, Ontarians, Albertans. That's fun. What a diverse set. Vernon is beautiful. Yeah, I vote conservative. Proud boomer. Thanks, Wanda. That's very true. Disbeliever, you're not a Christian then. Actually, I am. I mean, that's a fascinating story, Mark. I don't know if you want me to keep riffing here.
Let's. I changed something, so let's see if this works.
Sure.
We'll see if it works. I changed a setting. We could see if we could hear this.
Nope.
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 Okay. All right.
So I will. I'll keep riffing, Mark. I wasn't planning on talking this much.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's all good. So, interesting. Disbeliever 100. Not the red button. Very funny. You said you're not Christian then. So I am. My mom isn't, and her wife isn't, and that's fine. I was raised agnostic, atheist, and very much kind of grew up in that household. When I was 22 years old, I tried to take my own life. Was unsuccessful. Thankfully, glad I'm still here. And it was through that experience that I found God, accepted Jesus as my Savior, and have been proud practicing Christian ever since. So I think, I think you can be Christian. You can have people in your life who might not necessarily align with certain doctrines of the faith. I think that's fine. I think we bring people in as they are. So that's my story. More than I was planning on getting into, but I think that's totally fine. Yeah, that's great. And if you're not Christian, that's fine too. I've got lots of friends and colleagues who are not, who are Muslim, who are Sikh, Hindu, various affiliations with Christianity. There's lots. Look, Canada is a big place. Would I love to be more of a melting pot country? I actually think that would be good. Let's see if we got play here. Go ahead.
All right, let's see. And you know what? I think I know what to do. I'm going to change something up.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. We're going to try something different. I think what it is, and I think I figured it out. So this is going to be good. All right, so we're going to do this. So this, and then we're going to do this. Can you hear that?
Nope.
You don't hear anything? Okay, I'll change one more thing, and I think this should work. Audio. Okay, and then
Vancouver guy says your tech guy is a DEI hire. That's a good one. Vank guy 9204. This might be the best line of the day.
Okay, we're gonna try something else. Yeah, I apologize, guys. This is supposed to be all the tech's supposed to be done. I did a live stream last week and it worked fine. So I don't know why it's causing a problem, but I'm going to figure it out and then we're going to keep going. So, and you're doing a great job talking to the audience so that they get to know you, which is important as well. So
just riffing. Yeah. So one of the topics we're going to get into, I don't want to break any news here, but I think, let's keep the conversation going, is the Matt Generous story. We were going to get into that for sure because floor crossings have been happening. And I think it's I can certainly understand how people feel when they see someone who 3 months ago said they were resigning and going to donate their salary to charity, and also say that they're leaving for family reasons, suddenly change their mind and come back. It's certainly disappointing. It's certainly concerning and challenging. But I think it's important to know. I mean, I'd love to get folks who are here your perspective. My perspective is floor crossings happen. They've happened with conservatives. They happened under Stephen Harper. He accepted 2 floor crossers, David Emerson and Waleed Khan. 2006 for David Emerson and I think 2007 for Waleed Khan. Accepted those. They chose to come over because they saw more opportunity and more alignment with the conservatives than they did with the liberals. What we have now is we have folks who have left the benches of the conservatives because they see more alignment with Mark Carney than they do with Pierre Poilievre. I see some saying that folks should just go to become independent and then run in a by-election. Others should say ban floor crossing altogether. I'm not sure that you actually can ban floor crossing. I think you could definitely have a motion. Procedurally, I'm a bit of a proceduralist. So procedurally, you could have a motion to say that the House does not agree with floor crossing. But I don't think in practice you can actually stop that from happening. Is it an issue though? For sure. I think it's a concern. But I think we have to be circumspect about this. Look, if as a conservative, I was in government and people wanted to cross the floor and join me, making my government more powerful and having more control and more members, I can't say that I would say no. I think it's a reasonable thing to think about and look and consider. If your alignment has shifted, or if the party you represent or you're with or the government has shifted in such a way that you see more alignment there, I have a hard time really castigating people for moving. I totally agree that it looks really bad, but people have to be free to go where they feel they need to go, and I just don't know if banning it is something that can be effectively integrated. But I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to take any thoughts, folks. Here, someone here said they banned floor crossing in India and New Zealand. I didn't know that. Very interesting. Vancouver signed up for BC Prosperity. Oh yeah, BC Prosperity. Yeah, there's separatism talk everywhere. That's interesting stuff. Politics is an interesting space, right? Like, the conservatives federally, right? They are they're a project. I mean, we all know where they came from. They're a project where you had legitimately reformers, progressive conservatives, libertarian conservatives, others kind of enmesh and join and form government that was able to form government over 3 elections. Now we, through 3 leaders, we haven't been able to form government. We reasonably should have been able to last time. So I think there's concerns. I mean, full disclosure, I supported Pierre Poilievre in Calgary. I voted for him to stay on as leader because I think he deserves another shot. I think he deserves a chance. Stephen Harper didn't win in 2004. That was his first election. He learned a lot from that election. And so I think I think Pierre Poilievre deserves a chance to reshape things. So Mark, how we doing?
Yeah, let's check it out. Let's see if let's see if this works. I know. All right, here we go. Can you hear anything? Oh no, we don't even. 1 second here. Can you hear the? Still nothing?
Nope. Don't hear anything.
All right, we might have to go without until I figure this out.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe we can move on to some other pieces, other stuff that maybe doesn't require a video. I don't know if we have any of that.
Does that work?
No, I'm not hearing it.
Okay. Yeah, we could just go ahead and discuss. I mean, I prefer if we had the clips, but I mean, at this time, we're not really discussing. We could talk to the audience, talk about different things. No problem. We could do.
Yeah. Well, Mark, what I was just talking about Generu. What are your thoughts around the floor crossing stuff? Because I think we're into that conversation now. I took us there in earnest. So some folks are saying we should legislate against floor crossing, or we should make a rule that there is no floor crossing. Where do you stand on this? Because I think I don't know where I stand. I'll be very honest. I can understand the angst and the upset, but I struggle with bringing in a law or something to prevent people from doing something. I'm a bit more libertarian than that. So
yeah. So my thought is, sure, we could have floor crossing, but however, this is the one. However, and where I stand is, we need to see all of the communication from Matt Generu, all of the communication, phone, emails. We need everything to be revealed, because we need to know for sure. And this is where the problem is what exactly are they being offered? And if there's nothing offered, then sure. I mean, you change, but I have a feeling that all 3 people were offered something. And that is where the problem lies. Because if they were just, if they changed because there was no offer and their values changed and they, then, and that's the story they're presenting us. But we have zero proof that there was nothing offered to them for them to switch sides, especially Matt Generu, because he is in a conservative riding. It's only gone conservative from the beginning of time in his riding. Alberta is a conservative province. So you're telling me that you're going to flip to the Liberals when all of the people that they're all conservative. So you're going against the people of your constituents. We need to see all the emails. We need to see all of the transaction. We need to know everything needs to be transparent, because if everything's transparent, I have a feeling that we would see that there was a financial transaction, or is he going to get a $200,000 pay raise for his new role that he was just given?
Yeah, because he's now the special advisor to Mark Carney. I don't remember what the exact role was, but he's now not just an MP, he's a special advisor. So certainly that must come with a pay bump of some kind.
Well, that's the thing. So is he offered a pay bump? What got him to switch? And if it was fully transparent, then perfect. But since I have a feeling nothing's been transparent, we have no idea. I mean, look at Michael Ma. He got a first-class ticket to go to China. He's also seated right next to Mark Carney in the House of Commons. It's as if, so what's happening in Canada is we're having MPs cross the floor because they're getting something. So that's not democratic whatsoever. We're not living in a democratic society if they're crossing because of financial needs, means, power means, whatever's happening. So that's why people are furious. And you know what? If I was a liberal, I'd be upset as well, because never in Canadian history have we had 3 floor crossers like this to make a majority. That's the thing. There was floor crossers before. It wasn't to get a majority. And we are in the scariest time to be Canadian is right now. We are on the precipice of something huge. For example, one side, the Conservatives, are promising to bring back affordability and to deregulate this country, where right now we have so many regulations. The reason that we are so weak in this country is because for the last 10 years, the Liberals have attacked our oil and gas industry, the industry that allowed us to have the free healthcare. It's not free, we all pay for it. But the reason that we have all of our social programs, the reason that we are part of the we're not G7 anymore, even though they say we are, but part of the G20 is because we sold our natural resources, our gas. It allowed us to have the society we have. And you know what's really interesting is without the United States protection, we wouldn't even have a liberal government. We wouldn't be so liberal in this country, because we've allowed to have this protection of this umbrella from the United States, allowing our country to not invest in the military and then instead invest in all these programs like gender rights on the other side of the world. We're so righteous. We're so great. But in reality, without the United States, we wouldn't be anywhere near liberalism in this country. So it's pretty ironic and interesting. That's for sure.
Well, so here's my question, right? Like, and again, I posed this when you were doing some tech stuff, so I'm not sure if you heard, but we had David Emerson, you had Willie Kahn cross and join the Conservatives. So if the roles were flipped and this were happening on our side, would we be so loud and opposed to this, or would we be quietly griping about it, or would we be vocally supporting it? And I think, I look for consistency, right? When I left the NDP, I struggled under the orthodoxy that was demanded and enforced and managed on that side of things. So what I look for now, I look for outcomes, right? What are the outcomes that we're looking for? What's the change that we want to happen? And so if we're saying no to floor crossing whatsoever, excellent, great. But we have to acknowledge at the same time that that could be a detriment to us when we're on the governing side, that there may well be a time when we need 1 or 2 more seats to form a majority, and we might be able to coax people over. I'm not saying for whatever reason, I'm not even saying that inducements are a good thing. But, if it were to happen, is that something we should allow? Or should we say, okay, let's instead, because for me, I think a good conservative principles around fiscal management are important, right? I think we have to have some standards and some baselines. Well, the reality is when you run a by-election, you're looking at, what is it? $300,000, $500,000 to run a by-election. Like, it's not cheap, right? By-elections are expensive. And so if you have 2 or 3 by-elections, so in this case, if you're forcing 3 by-elections, and I'm pulling a number out of the air, someone can do a Google search and find out what the average cost of a by-election in Canada is. But if it's $300,000, you're looking at close to $1 million for 3 by-elections. Is that fiscally responsible? I don't know.
Wait a second.
I think it is. Yeah.
I heard that liberals complaining about Pierre Poilievre's. It cost $2 million for that one.
Oh, there we go. Right. So what was that? Was that managing the longest ballots though? Right. Like,
I'm not too sure, but I remember I saw online that a lot of people were on the liberal supporters like, it cost $2 million for Pierre's by-election, and now we have 3. What will be interesting is the outcome of Terrebonne riding.
Terrebonne, yeah, that's going to be really interesting.
Because if the Liberals need to sweep that, and I believe they need 1 more floor crosser, unless Elizabeth May steps up as the House Speaker, then they don't need an additional floor crosser if they win all 3, because they need a House Speaker. So she could potentially step up to that, and then they won't be losing one of their MPs for that. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, I think Elizabeth May, don't ever discount the status that she can get for herself. This is someone who I've worked adjacent to here on the island, as a campaigner, and with the NDP previously, and with the Conservatives. And she is very good at putting herself in places where she can elevate herself. She's much less about the party. She's much less about the grassroots of her party, and she's much more about herself. I mean, the fact is, I don't want to get into a long rant about Elizabeth May, but she said she was going to step down from the party, from leading the Green Party, and then suddenly she wasn't, and she undermined the last leader, to the point that the last leader wasn't able to run a proper campaign. So, yeah, I think it's possible. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't think that will happen. I don't think that she will get that position.
All right. So I have there's no audio for this one, so it works out perfectly. A discussion point for us to do here. So we just found out this morning that South Korea's ex-president Yoon receives a life sentence for imprisonment for martial law when he imposed martial law. And the special prosecutor was demanding the 6 feet underground penalty. And but he got a life sentence. And what's very interesting to me is our top negotiator, Janice Charette, was the person that approved the use of recommended the use of the Emergency Act in Canada, which has been found twice in the court system to be found unconstitutional, broke our Charter of Rights. And now she's the top negotiator for Canada. And what about Justin Trudeau? He's just bought this brand new, beautiful mansion for almost $5 million, and he's living his dream life. And in another democratic country, someone's going to jail for life for doing something like that. I don't know if you knew about this story, but this was one of the discussion points I was going to bring to you.
I had no idea. Look, I lived in South Korea for a year, and the politics in South Korea is still struggling to pull itself out from under what was years of managed corruption. And that all came about because of the Korean War. The United States had a huge hand in maintaining South Korea in government and power, which resulted in a lot of corruption in that country. When I was living there, there was a former prime minister, president. I don't recall. I think they're presidents in South Korea, who actually took his own life. And threw himself off of a cliff, who was a very popular president. But because there were some corruption allegations, it was shocking. And I remember working with folks when I was living there who were crying all day because this guy was so popular, and they were so depressed and disappointed that the corruption allegations of this person. Look, back to the Emergencies Act. It is clear that the Emergencies Act was illegal. It's been made more than clear that it is illegal. And I don't think that there has been enough accountability to come out from that ruling, which is why people are reasonably really upset that Janice has now been made the chief negotiator for our kind of U.S. Kuzma negotiations. It's completely understandable. Nobody's been held accountable. Justin Trudeau is gone for sure, but there are some extremely reasonable arguments to be made about why appointing the person to be our chief negotiator to the United States, who actually brought in the Emergencies Act into force in the case in Ottawa, raises so many hackles. Nobody has yet stepped up and said, yeah, you know what? This was my fault. I shouldn't have done this. And is it her? I think it is. And I think politically, she was the wrong choice. She may be a very long-term public servant who served well. And I've worked with a lot of public servants in my time. I have a lot of respect for the work that the public service does. There's a lot of stuff they do behind the scenes that we don't know about. That benefit us. That being said, she did the wrong thing, and now looks like she's been given a promotion for it. So I think it's disturbing.
Absolutely. I mean, The thing is yes, she has a track record within the government, but when you see, I think that's something that shows her character. That she made a very poor decision, which resulted in breaking our constitutional rights in the court system twice, and now she's responsible for the biggest trade negotiation with the United States. It's almost as if they are actively trying to sabotage this with the United States. I say every time, I'm like, they're sending Dominic LeBlanc. Now we have this woman. To me, it's alarming. It's scary, and we're gonna have to see see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not the biggest fan of Donald Trump. I mean, I'm going to say that right off the top. That's probably going to make me some enemies, but I don't really give a shit. But the fact is, they are our largest trading partner. We cannot be naive enough to think that we can suddenly turn off or wind down or blunt the impact of what is 100 years of integrated trade relationships. I say 100 years because Wilfrid Laurier was the first prime minister who really started looking at reciprocity between Canada and the United States, and it was rejected back then. But the trade relationship is extremely strong between Canada and the United States, and it is an absolute fiction if anybody thinks that we can go it alone without having a significant trade deal between Canada and the US. We can't. And so what I see, and we saw it the other day, actually, you don't need to be a fan of Trump or not a fan of Donald Trump to understand that using Trump as a scapegoat for how badly you're doing is a BS tactic. So here in British Columbia, we just had the BC NDP drop a 13.3 or a budget that shows we're going to have a $3.3 billion deficit. The deficit was only going to be $10 billion last year. It's going to be $13.3 billion now, and they're raising taxes in British Columbia, $1.1 billion. And who did they blame for it? Donald Trump. Like, come on, get over yourself. Donald Trump had nothing to do with the tariffs and the duties that were put on lumber in BC. Actually, it was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that put tariffs on British Columbia lumber and timber. So get off the moral high horse, amping up the moral panic about the president of the United States. He is the president of the United States. Engage like an adult, do what needs to be done, but also take responsibility for the things that you have done that have decimated the province and the country. And so that's why I think this is such a problem, because you have people who are unwilling to accept responsibility, so they pick scapegoats, right? I think it's sad. I think it's brutally sad. It's sad for our politics, because people who tune in, they want to think that they're gaining an understanding. They're building some kind of knowledge and awareness about politics. And when all they hear is especially from Ravi Parmar and David Eby here in BC, they just hear Trump every single time it comes up. It really is getting tiring.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is like, we have the largest unprotected border on the planet. We're the most aligned with the U.S. as term of people and values. And for us to, and then we're actively trying to get to net zero. We're still trying to get to net zero. We represent 1.5% of total global emissions. We've completely abandoned the tree planting program, which is the one thing I actually supported. I said, these 2 billion trees make sense because it's a carbon sink. We buy 500 water bombers immediately so that we turn out all the fires across this country, maybe even water the forest when it's too dry. Just get the water bombers to drop water onto the forest. But and so the thing is that we could do things, but instead what we do is we're going to be trading with Australia, New Zealand, with Southeast Asia, with China, with Europe. We're forming these new economic trading partnerships and trading with the other side of the planet when we're trying to get to net zero. And none of it makes sense. So if we're actually trying to get to zero emissions, it would make sense to get electric trucks and all our vehicles, and we trade with the United States and have zero emissions across the border. If that was actually what we were trying to do. But these liberals, they say one thing and do the absolute opposite on a daily basis. We see that. And the thing is that when we look at the numbers, and we just discussed, 75% of all our trade goes down to the United States. If we wanted to diversify, which is great, we should be diversifying with the rest of the world. For the last 10 years, the liberals have done the opposite of diversify. We've doubled down with the United States, and we could have built, I saw something like $650 billion flooded out of our energy sector because it's uninvestable. For example, Justin Trudeau, he said that there was no business case for our natural gas, and all of a sudden now there's a business case. We lost a decade. We could have been building all of these things. And the thing is, if you actually look at history, we've done it it's the US have built all of these LNG in the last 10 years, and now they're dominating the space. Canada was just sitting there. We're sending all our oil down south. Now we have the Trans Mountain Pipeline that's giving or sending oil overseas. But in order to maximize that pipeline, and I heard right now we're at 80%. It can't really go any further. You can't put 100% in the pipeline. It's going to burst.
You can get maybe another. I think the estimates I've heard another 3 to 5% if you dredge. If you dredge the Burrard Inlet and you can get the Super Aframax tankers in the inlet, I think that you can get a little bit more out of it. But you're right. From my understanding, is you cannot get you cannot get a pipe to 100%.
No, you can't. And then also it takes, so there's a way that we could increase 500,000 barrels of oil through that pipeline, that the brand new one. And you have to put new pumps, like high efficiency pumps throughout the piping system, which takes 5 years and $5 billion to do. We should start that now. It takes 5 years. That we already have the pipeline. Let's use it to the maximum capacity. If we're in the biggest crisis in Canadian history and Donald Trump's doing all these things, we're not acting like it's the biggest crisis based on the decisions. For example, Mark Carney was elected almost a year ago, and all he's done is open one office of national interest. All of the projects that he announced have already been in the making for the last 5 years. There's nothing new that he's presenting. And then this MOU with this new pipeline from on the North Coast, it's subject to David Eby's approval and the First Nation approval. Well, it's dead in the water. That thing's like toilet paper. If we were serious, what we would do is say, this is to a project of national interest, boom, approved. And we do the environmental coincide with the development. So the approval and everything, streamline the whole thing. This pipeline would take 8 years to develop in the north. It should start today because we don't have a minute to waste. And if we want to be our own sovereign, strong nation, we need to act like it. And it's called making decisions for the betterment of our society. And these are decisions that need to be made. The way that they're doing it is a never plan. And Pierre Poilievre was bang on when he said that, Mark Carney, I gave you Bill C-5 so that you could get things done. And since I've given you those extraordinary powers, you've done nothing with it. And what's also concerning, and I'm sure a lot of my audience watches Moose on the Loose, a majority of the projects are tied to Brookfield. This is the most conflicted prime minister in Canadian history. And most Canadians, when I ask them, I say, hey, did you know that, these projects are tied to Mark Carney's conflict of interest? No, they're not. No, they're not. I'm like, oh my God, what do you mean, though? They're not. You got to know. They're like, he wouldn't do that. They always say that. Like when I talk about Bill C-2, Bill C-8, Bill C-9, Bill C-15, Bill C-15 is the power of the king bill. That one's terrifying because it gives the MPs extraordinary powers where they're not subject to any of the laws in Canada except for criminal. That is criminal to give them all this power because they think they need all these powers. And Bill C-8 is delete you from the internet, or Bill C-9 jail you for a meme. Bill C2, surveil you. Bill C2 was announced again today for everybody that didn't see. Mark Carney came out and said, extortion's a huge problem in Canada. We need Bill C2 so police can monitor your phone and all of your communication without a search warrant because they've lost control over extortion. So he's already pushing for it. So these bills specifically, a lot of Liberal supporters out there that actually all of them that I've spoken to say the Liberals would never do this to us. That's you're fear mongering, and and so they don't know about the bills, and then they also say that they would never do this to us. But my question to them is, look what they did during the pandemic, shutting down the country where we weren't able to go on a plane or boat, or a lot of people lost their jobs. And then now we just found out in the last month, and I've covered this, that they want to bury for 15 years, the pokey poke adverse effects and injuries. For 15 years, Health Canada is going to be burying that stuff so that by the time all these people are retired, we're never going to find out. There'll be zero accountability, and they push this on us. So yeah, we have a lot of questions in Canada based on past behavior, and now they want even more power. And it is concerning. And what concerns me the most is the amount of people that are just sleeping on all of this. And I always say in my show, and like I try to explain to people, we have lost our aunts. Like my grandfather, whenever I'd see him, he'd say, he fought in World War II. And every time I'd see him, he'd say, listen, I lost all my friends. All his friends passed, not all, but most of his friends passed away. So my grandfather, he wanted to be, he's like, you know what? I'm really worried about the war. So I don't want to, I want to come back home. I don't want to, I don't want to be at risk. So he decided to be a doctor. He said a doctor's not going to be on the front line. So he trained to be a doctor. And then when he was finished, they put him in the planes as a parachute doctor on the front line, worse than the front line. He would be dropped in the areas that needed, so he was dropped in, and then he was the doctor that's literally in the trench, flown in. And what one day they were flying, and one of his friends, his leg got blown apart. And so he said, I have to stay back with my friend. They were going to discipline him with severe penalty for not getting on the plane. And what they said is things were happening so quick. They're like, forget him. Luckily for him, they said, forget him. We got to go. And he's like, no, I'm not going. Anyway, that plane was blown out of the sky. Not one survivor. So I wouldn't actually be here today if he got on that plane and he didn't stay with his friend, his best friend. Wow. And so then he also went up into, he went on another plane. It got shot down and he was captured by the Nazis. Anyway, every single time I saw him, he would explain to me these stories from World War II. And he said, we fought for the freedoms we have in this country. Lest we forget, we have our freedoms because of the sacrifices made for this country. And we are forgetting as a nation. Yes, because of social media, we have all of this stuff. Mainstream media is working against Canadians with a $1.4 billion paid for by our government. That should be a red flag right there. Every day they're coming out with their spin pieces. We're forgetting about the sacrifices made for this country. And the Liberals are accelerating the forgetting. They're forgetting the patriotism. For example, they want to change. They've already changed our national anthem. When our passport used to have, all of in history, it'd show our passport would have all of our historical major milestones and memories. Now it's Justin Trudeau playing in front of a cottage. It's and different weather events. They're systematically erasing the past so that, and we're losing all of our freedoms. And it's happening right before our eyes. And that's why I wake up every single day and provide everybody with my content, because this is the end game, guys. We have to wake everybody up. And it's not time to just sit back and watch TV and think tomorrow's going to be a better day. It's not. We have a responsibility as Canadians to work together and fight for change. We have to fight for the change. We can't just expect these officials to do it for us. We need to demand it from them. And so this floor crosser is a wake-up call for Canadians. I'm going to be working on a strategy, because we need to make sure that that us Canadians are heard, that we don't like this. We don't like that what he did. Matt said that he said that he's doing it for Canada, for a better, to be more united, when in fact it's tearing this country apart. Even liberal supporters are looking at this going, this is tearing us apart. We elected a minority government. You guys are going to steal this thing. We didn't vote for this because we don't want all of these devastating bills to be approved, because if they get the majority, all those bills I mentioned will be approved immediately. And it's over. I won't be able to create content like I am right now. It's over. Mm-hmm. They will make examples, just like they did for the trucker convoy. Tamara Leach and Chris Barber, they made they went severely on them. We see on a daily basis that people are getting away with all sorts of atrocities with children and crimes, and they get like 2 months or a year, and then they were looking for 8 years, 9 years for these people that committed mischief, to just show that the government will come down hard on the population, so that it puts us in our place, and we won't do that again. And and with these extraordinary powers, they're gonna go even harder on us. And this is our last chance. I mean, we need to work together and wake up. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a rant there, but
that was good. I mean, look, what I want to say about Matt Generu is, if he says he's doing it for the Canadian voter, let him go back to his constituents and see if they want him there. I mean, honestly, if he is that convinced that he's there for the Canadian voter and for his constituents, put up or shut up, Matt. Go back to your constituents who have never elected a liberal ever in that riding, and have the courage of your convictions, and see if they'll send you back. If they do, then you did the right thing. But I'm pretty sure they're not going to send him back. The other thing I want to say two things. Number one is, you mentioned Canada's ability to get stuff done around natural resources. In 10 years, the United States built 15 LNG export terminals. In that same time, Canada built one. That tells you all you need to know about bureaucratic delay and the challenges with actually getting Canada's economy moving and getting workers a good salary and getting them paid and getting stuff done in Canada. So I think we need way less red tape. We need to get stuff done. We need the federal government to do what it's constitutionally allowed to do and move a pipeline project forward. And I think another point I want to make, and then I've got one final point to say, because someone put something in the chat that I want to address. Canadians, and I like what you're doing here, Mark, trying to wake folks up. And look, you've not really said anything here that I disagree with in any way, at least not significantly. But what I do think you've pointed to is that Canadians tend to be pretty complacent. We tend to be pretty blasé about governments, about what our governments do, what our elected politicians do. I've seen a couple folks post here that never trust any politicians. You know what? I don't agree with that. I think that there are politicians, generally speaking, who are elected because they believe that they're there to do the right thing. But I don't think that they are scared enough, scared in quotations, of the public, because as Canadians, we're generally pretty passive. We go to an election, we go vote every now and then, and we vote, and then that's kind of all the attention we pay to elections, which is why folks like you and me and others are out there trying to raise issues that we see are significant and important, to inform folks and encourage them to not just turn out at election time, but to get out before election time, and not just on X or on Twitter or on the comments section, join your local riding association, go to a political event, go to a rally, go to something, become part of the movement on the ground, because that's where you make change happen. I want to make a point because there's a poster here, and I'm just going to find Clyde Do Something. Clyde Do Something said something further up about, and this actually relates back to what you were saying too, about how I supported Soji in 2019. And you don't need to look very hard to find some of the positions that I previously held. I don't hide from that. I don't hide from the fact that I supported things that I don't now. Here's what I tell conservatives that kind of ask me and say, how can we trust you, given that you had positions that you held now, or that you held then that you don't now? And I just say, you convinced me I was wrong. You convinced me that I was holding the wrong positions on things. I'm not someone who's inflexible and unwilling to change his mind. But on Soji, I was absolutely wrong. I saw what it was doing. I saw the fact that we had teachers in schools telling kids that they're trans, which is not what Soji was ever intended to do. I saw and learned and realized about the harms that it was doing to people, not just people, but their families, that it was ripping families apart, that literally there were kids getting double mastectomies when they should absolutely not be, and hearing from detransitioners as well, that what this stuff has done to them and how it's ruined and destroyed their lives. So I think, when you look at those kinds of things, and not just those, but safe supply and decriminalization, I acknowledge that I held positions that I was convinced are absolutely wrong and that I should not have held. And for whatever accountability I have for that, I think it's valid to ask the questions. I absolutely do not shun, and I don't shy away from that. But I think it's important to understand as well that people can change. And to your point, Mark, I think what you're doing here is important because you're raising the volume on really important topics. And I think we can use that to remind ourselves that people can change their opinions and change their perspectives. And I think I'm living proof of that. I think I'm someone who came across because people didn't give up on me, right? Like, look, when I was in the NDP, I was really indoctrinated into not a covert, like a deep anti-Semitism. It's absolutely true. I was, because the NDP is deeply anti-Semitic. And when you work in that party over years, you interact with people and policies and activists that embed a distrust of everything successful, everything associated with Americans. Like the NDP has a foundational distrust of the United States, and they also really pushed a deep anti-Semitism, which I'm ashamed to say it. Yeah.
So let me intervene here.
Yeah.
So I saw this woman. She took a picture with that young young activist, climate activist, the Grunenberg. That she's the face of it. Anyway,
Greta Thunberg. Yeah.
So I saw this girl. She's all over the internet now. She was part of that movement. She was part of like the whole, the end of the world. We need to, Anyway, she actually was the face of that, took a picture with this young woman, and now she is educating on how it was all wrong. And she is the voice of being, what's really interesting is the person that was the voice of a certain thing is now the strongest advocate for the opposite, because they were on the inside and able to explain why they were the certain way. And then also not only advocate that it was all wrong, but they know more than anybody, because they were like, for example, for me, I can't understand the certain policies or different things that the liberals do. My brain doesn't work that way. I don't think I'll ever understand, because I was never part of that. I've always been a very conservative person from a very young age. I like tradition. I like the history, and I like to preserve the past, because the past will really be able to guide us to make the right decisions in the future. I'm a data-driven person. I'm a common sense type of person. So to me, all of these things have always made sense to me. And when I see an ideological or imaginary, and it doesn't make any sense to me, because I'm always so for somebody to be on the inside that was part of something could also be one of the strongest voices for change. So for you might be able to be one of those voices saying, hey, this is how I was, but these are the reasons. And then you would be able to vouch to be a voice for the people that are potentially still involved in this, right? You go, hey, I agree, I understand, and then maybe bring them over to understand why you're no longer like that, right?
Well, and look, I have conversations with friends and colleagues who are still very much involved with the NDP, and they absolutely see that they're on the wrong side. Their challenge is that they don't know how to leave, right? They don't know how to go. They saw what happened to me. When I left, I was ostracized. I lost friendships. I lost acquaintances. I lost job opportunities. My world when I left collapsed. And that's not hyperbolic. Again, 23 years, you don't develop 23 years of contacts, friendships, and colleagueships and opportunity. You don't rebuild that in a heartbeat, right? So that went away. But the one thing it did do, and I really have to credit, there's several folks in the conservative movement who opened their arms to me and said, this is a place that you can belong, because conservatives are much more diverse than you thought. They are much more diverse. They are, and it's true, they are. It is an amazing thing to be at that convention and run into conservatives and find the diversity within the group. Not something I was ever raised believing or understanding. That conservatives are one way. They're not. There's constitutional conservatives, libertarian conservatives, social conservatives, red Tories, blue liberals. There's all kinds of folks within the party. I love that. I think that's healthy. And so what I'm here to do is to say, we can have these conversations and we can bring people on side while being true to conservative principles. I was never one who was, I think, a super fiscal leftist. I think I was always probably a moderate, and I'm probably still a moderate in quite a few ways. There are things, the more I see evidence of the implementation of policy that harms people, especially vulnerable people, I think we need Overton window flip to the absolute opposite side to right the ship, right? Things like, again, I brought up MAID, things like safe supply, decriminalization, again, things like SOGI, but those are just some of the issues. I think there's reasonable conversations to have. But I do think that we can bring people on side, and these conversations are a part of that work. And that's largely why I do what I do, why I have my podcast, Mark. And I think why you do what you do too, is to have these conversations to raise awareness about issues, but also to let folks know that you can change your mind in politics and survive. I've done it, and other people can do it too. It really.
Well, let's just put it this way. It takes courage. Actually, to be honest with you, in today's world, in today's Canada, it takes courage to be conservative. There's a lot of people that are out there, especially the young Canadians. They are fearful to come out and say they're conservative. They'll lose a lot of their friends.
Yep.
Because our school system is tailored towards more left-leaning social. In Burnaby here, where I live, there's they have the rainbow flag on top of the schools, and I just to me, kids are. In my view, kids are not developed mature yet. To me, the kids are, they're not a boy or girl. They're just kids. To me, that's my view. When I see a kid that's not developed or matured to reproduce, they are just kids. So boy, girl, there's some girls that are a little bit more boy and some boys that are a little bit more girl, but they're still just kids. So it has nothing to do with sexuality whatsoever. And so for us to bring the flag or anything to do with that in the school system is a hard no, because kids, they need to play on the playground. They got to learn math. They got to read books. They got to communicate with other kids. For adults to come in there and start educating them about sexuality is that's for home. You teach your kids that at home. That's a very private thing for your household. Everybody has different views on that as well. Our teachers need to stay away from that altogether. So that's my viewpoint. Protect the kids once they turn 18. And people say, well, if you don't teach them until they're 18, then there's going to be, no, you teach them at home. And kids, they talk. The kids, they learn from each other, right from wrong. We don't need the parents to intervene. Another thing is when you look at a child, I want people to look at a child as like, this is the big thing between, what I believe and what I see from the laughter liberals. When you look at a child, they're perfect in the way that they are. They were born a certain way. They're these beautiful children. We need to remind the kids that they're perfect just the way that they are, regardless of how they look, regardless of their race, regardless of how they feel, more boy, girl. Just accept the kid and love them for, we love you just the way you are. But the way that they have it now is we're not accepting the kids. You feel differently. There's something wrong with you. So we need to medically intervene and start doing hormones or whatever else. No, they're not even developed yet.
As a society, we've become far too comfortable with clinicizing difference, right? And clinicizing and diagnosing anything that makes kids and people unique, different, and special, instead of just accepting that, look, this is who you are and this is how you are, and you're feeling this way, you're probably going to outgrow it. Like I grew up in the 90s. It was a wild time to grow up. I love that I grew up in the 90s because I can't imagine growing up now. We fought and we had scraps and called each other names that if you said now in school, you'd probably get a detention, suspension, or expulsion. But we survived. We came through it, and we're better. We're stronger for it. There's a good Chris Rock comedy special where he talks about their parents trying to prevent their kids from getting bullied and how that doesn't allow their kids to develop character. And I was bullied mercilessly when I was a kid, and it caused some issues, but it did make me stronger. I'm not advocating for kids to get bullied, but what I am saying is that hardship, it develops you, right? Iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel. And it's hardship that gets you to understand how to exist in the world. The world is not a welcoming, accommodating, happy place that is going to guide you through with a soft hand. It's going to kick you around and it's going to beat you up. And you have to be ready to be prepared for it. And coming through it with soft gloves and soft paws and kind of bitching and whining because life isn't fair, like, get over it, because life isn't fair for a lot of people. And so I actually think we have to teach our kids way early that you got to be tough. You got to develop a mental toughness. You got to develop a physical toughness in order to make it through this world.
Yeah, I like Clyde's comment here. God didn't make us by mistake. When He made you. I mean, and I completely
God's image. We were made in God's image, so absolutely not.
And so one thing I want to say is, and I want to touch on the bullying. I think we all were bullied. I was bullied specifically as a child because I had, my attention wasn't great as a kid. And so one of the things is I was a very fast learner where I'd learn I had photographic memory as a kid. It's not as good as it was when I was a kid. As an adult, a little bit slower, but I wouldn't have to study. I would just look at something and be like, yeah, I know it already. My sisters were always like, dude, you're always outside playing in this sports, and then you never have to study and get all the good grades. And I said, yeah, because so the one thing that I disliked about our school system, and one of the reasons why a lot of bullying could be eliminated altogether is that the system is not made for special kids. Like, and when I say special kids, like, for example, when I was younger, they should have, so for example, when you teach the curriculum, first of all, the curriculum's like 10, 15 years old. I looked at my kids' books and I'm like, man, this is like 20 years ago. We have AI. Like, what is this material that they're learning? That's the first thing. And also, each kid has a gift. We're all gifted in our own way. So there's some kids that are really good at math. Well, why don't we, that 2-year-old or 5-year-old that's really gifted at math, why don't we teach them like as fast as possible to get to grade 12 and then university level math. Maybe they could get there before grade 7. But what we do in our school system is we teach these boring, useless topics to the kids. The kids are disinterested. We don't do enough physical activity in the school within the, like, kids need to be running around. They get 15 minutes and 30 minutes lunch, and during lunch you have to eat your lunch. So you're not really that active. My children do 1 hour of physical activity per week in the gym. Yeah. And so what happens in our school system is that it's tailored towards this system that doesn't allow kids to flourish. So the bullying part, which I'm referring to, is imagine you have these kids, and so, for example, I have my kids before I was in the public swimming system, where I went to the swimming class and they said, you can't put your child in a higher level because they didn't pass the previous level. And I said, yeah, but my kid, we swim all the time. So my kid's actually at level 5, not level 1. They're like, sorry, it doesn't work that way. And it's the same in our school system. You have to go to grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. You can't go to grade 7. You're stuck in these grades. And so what happened is that my kids were in the pool in the level 1, and they're swimming in the middle of the pool underwater, holding their breath. And they're teaching the other kids bubbles. And then the teacher has the audacity to tell me, you have to control your kids and tell them to listen to me. I'm like, dude, you're blowing bubbles. The kids are already in the bottom, and it's your guys' fault for not allowing the kids to go on the appropriate level. You have to pass each level. So I have my kids now in a swimming where as soon as it looks like they're close to the next level, I just say, hey, next level. And then they grade them right then and there, and they move on to the next level. So my son's with like swimming with 13-year-olds, and he's young. So it just shows that is the school system that we should do in Canada, where we push the kids. Hey, you like math? We're going to do a whole lot more math, and encourage the kids to excel in whatever they want to do. And that in itself will allow the bullying will be gone, because each kid will be so invested in what they're interested in doing, as opposed to bored looking at each other. And it's just this very toxic environment for children. And then with that toxic environment, it gets into the bullying and different things. So that's my thought on the school system needs to be revamped, reimproved. It's a big problem.
Well, one of your commenters here, Vant Guy 9204, I think put it greatly when he said merit, not equity. And I think that's accurate. I think when we aim to make everybody equal, that means making everybody the same, and we're not. I mean, we absolutely have to look at the fact that people are different and they're good at different things, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with highlighting someone's special, unique talent and skill set and allowing them to discover what that is and how to make it better. If all we're trying to do is create carbon copies of every certain tier of student, whether it's the lowest common denominator or what have you, all we end up doing is just kind of controlling for that and creating for that. It's wrong. We need to find ways to accelerate and elevate and celebrate those unique talents and skills that kids have. Otherwise, we just press them down and we force them to, become like 9-to-5 workers who may never have discovered that special talent that they have. So I think I think the problem, and the other thing I'll say is, as someone who was in the education system, when the education system is starved for funding, you end up having to eliminate those things that those special kids may be able to do, right? Whether it's gifted classes or other programming, after school programming, what have you. And that actually pushes even more towards that plateauing of kids to make all kids all the same. And that's such a huge problem, because you need those extra offerings, those opportunities. I had them growing up. I had extra alternative classes that I took part in because I was faster at certain topics than other things. And that benefited me a lot. And if we get rid of that stuff, you're just making everybody the same. And that doesn't serve any of us.
Yeah. So one thing that I always think about is when I was a kid, we had so much prosperity in this country. We had so much prosperity where one parent would be able to work and you would be able to buy a detached house in the Lower Mainland, one income, and it didn't have to be, it could be a modest income. You could still afford a house, and you would be able to go on vacation. You'd be able to invest in the markets, and you were able to have 4 children. And today you have a couple that don't want kids anymore because it's way too expensive. You have, our taxes are just so atrocious. The cost of living is out of control. And you have parents that are working 2 or 3 jobs and they still can't afford just, luxuries like going out and having a coffee or a nice dinner. Maybe once in a while you could do that, but it's so when is it going to be? It's not the world. The world is not like this. Like, you go down to the United States. I have friends that live in the US and LA and all over, and they're not living like us in Canada. They're not declining at the same pace as we are in Canada. They're still living a very comfortable life. But here in Canada, the comfort is nearly gone. And we keep electing the people that have given us this. It's not just the conservatives. When Stephen Harper, I remember those days where our dollar was at equivalent to the United States. I didn't have to work as hard back then, and I was making way less money than I am today. But I was not struggling. I was like, man, I'm not making as much today, but I was able to go on vacation. I was able to do all sorts of things. It's like never made more money in my entire life, yet I feel the most poor I've ever felt. So I can't imagine.
I had this conversation with my wife the other night, actually. Like, her and I are making more than we've ever made, and somehow we feel like we're just getting by. And it's really horribly depressing, because I think about the youth right now coming out of high school, coming out of university, and what they're going to go into. It will be a struggle, and that's why they are lining up behind Pierre Poilievre and conservatives federally and provincially, more than the party of the left that used to dominate the youth. Right?
So what exactly is Mark Carney offering to make us rich? What is Mark Carney offering for us to be abundant? What is Mark Carney offering that will bring us back to the glory days of Canada? I'm trying to look at all of the policies, and not one time have I ever seen him say that we are going to be rich again. The only thing he says is we are in a dangerous and divided world, on repeat like a broken record for the last 12 months, justifying all of this brand new spending, putting us into the worst deficits ever. We are breaking the $78 billion deficit that the parliamentary budget officer was already like, holy crap, we're at the precipice. We're about to go off of the cliff. And now we just found out this week that we're going over the guardrails of the $78 billion. And he's promising this military spending over the next decade. And another thing, and it was part of the clips that I was going to show everybody, is Mark Carney's talking about all his new recent press conferences is in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, this, in the next 10 years, that. Why is he talking about 10 years? First thing, the reason he's saying 10 years is because if you say 10 years, there's zero accountability whatsoever. And the reason I say that is within news and occurrences and things around this world are happening so quickly on a daily basis. I open the newspaper and things are going down daily. We have, for example, just this year, we got like Venezuela, a guy's gone, like Russia, all these things around the world. You think the world's going to be, and then with AI, every single year, AI doubles its capacity of power. Do you really think that things are going to be the same in 10 years? No. So for him to say that he has a 10-year plan and all these additional spending, and guess what? He is yet to announce how we're going to pay for any of this. The only way is to create even more debt, which means that our inflation that we currently, how we're feeling poor now, just wait. We're at 7.3% food inflation. It's only going to get worse from here. And he's going to either print it or it's not going to come from economic growth. He's saying that we're going to buy Canadians We're going to buy Canadian stuff. But we're already seeing that that's not the case. These companies are shell companies in Canada and shipping the money abroad, or they're doing other things that it's. So yeah, we need to start asking questions. When you have a 10-year plan, we need to start focusing on a 1-day plan, 1-week plan, 1-month plan, and 1-year plan. 10-year plan, no, stop. That's a full stop for me when I hear 10-year. And that's my opinion, because we don't even know what's going to happen next week. So we need to start focusing on immediate action today that we could do to make us prosperous again, which is not being offered by the Liberal Party of Canada. And that is why we need to immediately get them out and replace them with competent people that will have a vision for Canada that is immediate, that we could do right away, not looking at 10-year plans. We're looking at, this is what we're doing today, and we're starting right now. And that's my opinion, and that's where I stand.
That's a solid pitch, Mark. I have nothing to say opposite of that. It's a solid pitch. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that Canadians, so what I see too on mainstream media and what I see liberals talk about online and stuff is they want us to accept less. Mm-hmm. They want us to accept that, hey, it's Trump's fault that we're in such a worse position. Hey, it's you see when Justin Trudeau's like, it's Ukraine's fault that our food inflation is 10, 12%. It's somebody else. It's always somebody else's fault. And then they want us to accept less. What I always pitch to people is we need to dream bigger. We need to dream huge. We could build a pipeline on every single province, every single direction, and we could do it in the most safest, environmentally friendly way possible, because we are Canadian, because we have innovators, we are pioneers. We need to dream so huge that if we go a little bit under, we are going to be the most prosperous. We have the most third largest oil reserve on the planet. We have the most running fresh water on the planet. We have the second largest landmass. We are not overpopulated at 41 million population. We literally have so much land and prosperity and natural resources, yet we are poor. We are so poor. We do not have prosperity in this country. We have all of these woke ideologies and handouts. We need all these handouts. Sure, we could hand out and help the poor and help people. But guess what? Eventually, there's no more money to be able to pay for all of these things because we have crushed our prosperity. So we need to, if we focus on prosperity, then we will all benefit, every single group. But it's all backwards in this country, and we need a full turnaround. Sorry, I went off on another rant.
Yeah, I think we need to get to a place where we're building stuff again. And all the promises in the world, all the speeches, all the commitments from Mark Carney are not getting us there. Promises don't build pipelines, right? They great speeches don't get trade deals signed.
Can I stop you right now, because you just brought something to my attention that I wanted to talk about on this show with one of the clips I had, is that Matt Jeneroux said that the reason that he decided to join the Liberals, and he went and he's like, no, I'm just going to resign. But what ignited him to step up for this country is a speech from Davos, a speech. He didn't move because he didn't say that he changed over, because he actually saw things get better in this country. He didn't say that he was moving because he sees actual action that is like, I want to be part. For example, if you start seeing a building get built and you're like, wow, I see the vision and things are actually materializing, then you pick up the hammer to complete the thing. I get it. But for someone just to talk in a speech, that does not equate to actual payments that are feeding your children food at the dinner table. There's no economic benefit from a speech. None. The only thing that I could see is if you are able to feed your children steak every single night because you've actually done something. Yeah, I want to be part of that team immediately. But someone doing a speech in Davos saying you want to join up with middle powers to go over the major powers, and 2 days before you did a deal with China, so we all know you're talking about the U.S. and then coming home, and then the U.S. is pissed at us and saying we're going to go after a bridge and all different things. It's like it's just so absurd. Am I losing my mind? I feel like I'm losing my mind. Like, it's just so absurd.
No, I don't think so. And I mean, look, I think there's lots of places I could go with this. I think it was an easy out for him. I think the fact is, I think he was going to come across the whole time. I really do. For whatever reason, he pushed the resignation, spend more time with my family stuff, and that was the story we were pushed in November. I believe firmly that he was always going to make this call, that he was always going to, and he was just looking for an out. And that speech at Davos, for whatever it was, it got a lot of attention. Media gave it a lot of attention. I even saw some conservative commentators who I know that really liked the speech. Fine, right? That's fine. But using that as an excuse, as leverage to come over, it seems convenient more than anything. And I think it doesn't change the fact that nothing has gotten better. Mark Carney's been prime minister now for are we at a year yet, or we're getting there?
Not yet. So it's
getting
not been a
2
year.
months, 2 months,
2 more months.
Like
He's been 10 months.
What have we gotten in that time? There's nothing that I can see. I don't see anything better. And he was promising to be the fastest government, to get things done more quickly than ever. Well, I mean, his fast is certainly looking pretty darn slow as far as I'm concerned. So I just don't see it.
No. And so what blows my mind is, if you look at the track record for the Liberals of the last decade, it's abysmal. So to me, to vote for the people that have created the worst economic conditions ever, we've never been poorer, and expect change, it makes zero sense. You can't keep doing the same stuff over and over again and expect change. And they keep promising we're going to move. Yeah, like you said, move at unimaginable speeds. The only thing unimaginable I see is unimaginable speeds at decline.
Yeah. Well, managing our decline ever downwards, right? And I think that's where the CPC and PR really need to drive forward a message that emphasizes hope and that emphasizes better, because Canadians, whether it's young Canadians, whether it's retirees, whether it's working Canadians, it doesn't matter what it is, there's a lot of dismal sentiment out there, because people generally feel that not only are things not getting better, but we have, as a society, in terms of our own purchasing power, have stabilized and flatlined in such a way that everything is getting more expensive. So we're actually declining. We are declining in terms of what we are able to do for ourselves and for our communities, and things that we can afford, things that we can buy. Things are getting worse. And that's just the reality. That's just the fact, which is why you don't actually see a marked increase in Mark Carney's polling. Generally speaking, there hasn't been any movement. There's a 5-ish, a 3 to 5 to 7 point gap. It really hasn't moved. It's because people don't see it, right? They don't see the shift.
The decline is a choice. It's not. Yeah, it doesn't just happen to us. It's literally a choice. And for example, when Mark Carney does his fear speech on a daily basis, he does his fear. Every single time you'll see him post something, it says a dangerous and divided world. I hope everybody took the opportunity to watch Marco Rubio's speech in Munich, because he didn't provide any fear. There was no fear in his speech. It was, we need to leave our children and our grandchildren with a better opportunity than we had. And that is the vision and goal. And how are we going to get there is we're going to pave the way to prosperity. So he's talking about this vision where we are going to accelerate our prosperity to a point where our children are going to have a better life, meaning one income earner, not 3 jobs per person kind of thing. Like let's get to a place where we could spend more time with our children and not have to worry about working 3 jobs so we could just put a couple carrots on our plate.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different vision for their country. And it was really refreshing to watch Marco Rubio's speech. To me, I was like, wow, like it was nice to see somebody come out and say, we could do better. And we need to do better for our children's and our children's children. When I see Mark Carney's speech, it's like, we're setting the bar so low. We need to do worse. It's so discouraging when I see him speak, because it's all about fear with him, fear of Donald Trump, fear of the world is a dangerous place, and unfortunately, a lot of people buy into fear because fear is one of the major motivators for people. It shuts off the front part of their brain, the thinking part of the brain, and it makes them react. And that's why we see online, I try to do posts to educate Canadians, and then you get like, hundreds of very, it doesn't bother me, but I see the sentiment of people online that, and it's because they're so fearful, and they're fearful of Donald Trump. They're like, Donald Trump's going to come over here with tanks. He's coming to take us over. But they forget that the real threat is actually on the other side of the ocean, where our politicians went to China and they had to use burner phones because it's not a safe place. You have to use burner phones. And even if you go on the government's website and there's a travel warning to go to China, and then we have these visas to go there, like our threat is from China. And they even said, Mark Carney's like, the biggest threat to Canada is China. And that's why we are trying to get our military going. That's why our north is vulnerable to China. Yet they're trying to convince us that we're going to be doing more with China, sharing police. Oh, by the way, today we found out it's been 12 days since there was a request from Mark Carney by Frank Caputo. He did a letter to Mark Carney saying, we need to know what you signed, the MOU you signed with China, because supposedly what Mark Carney did is he signed an MOU with China to share police intel and top security information. And so we need to know what that is. Like, what was that? And he refuses to give that to Canadians.
Yeah.
And then what we're seeing right now is on US mainstream media, Fox News, I posted on my social media, and it's good to see what the US are saying. They're not saying good things about Canada and China. And do you blame them? I mean, and what I have to say is, wow, you go onto the US networks, it's completely different news because they have left-leaning news, they have centrist, and they have right. So you could have a full mixed. In Canada, the only thing we have is Rebel News, Juno News, and then us independent content creators. And we're all over the map.
We are all over the map. Yeah.
We're not,
which is what it should be. I mean, there should be a media. I mean, here's the thing about content creators, influencers that I find so fascinating. They are a response to gaps in mainstream media, right? So we have insane gaps in the mainstream media in Canada, where you have basically 2-3 major players. You've got Global, you've got CTV, and you've got CBC. And they generally provide, CBC being the worst, commentary that for the most part I'm going to put the CBC aside because I actually think that they're reserved for a place in many occasions where it is so skewed and it is so biased, so clearly against conservatives that the words I have right now for them are probably not fit for the show. But you need content creators right now and influencers and the work that we do to fill a gap that the mainstream media is just not covering, because there's no balance, there's no perspective. I mean, you look for coverage that is anywhere remotely considered in terms of a conservative perspective on CBC News. You won't find it. What you'll find is you'll find explanations for why the government is doing something, why Mark Carney is doing something else, why. But you will also always find the counterweight is so much heavier against the conservative perspective on the CBC that it is so obvious that they are amplifying the government message and pushing back against the conservative one.
It's also dangerous.
It is dangerous.
It's very dangerous because it makes people, it radicalizes people. It's a dangerous thing that we're doing. And you know what's very concerning, and that's why I keep telling people, like, we got to wake up, is us content creators are, Mark Miller said that we're a threat. He literally said it.
Yeah,
he said independent content creators, and now we're called influencers, are a threat to democracy. Why would it be that way? That people with their own unique voice is all of a sudden a threat because we're not paid for by the government, is his justification.
We're not government parrots, parroting their talking points that they provided us every morning in a briefing note. Like, no, look, we're not. We have various perspectives. You and I agree on things. We disagree on things. Folks in your chat are going to agree with some things that I say. They're going to disagree with some things that I say. That's fine. We should be able to have the discussions and the debates where we are able to surface the best ideas. You put them against each other. The one that wins is the best idea. That's the marketplace of ideas, right? And that's how it goes. Not because the government has decided that they're going to give billions of dollars to a publicly funded news agency that's going to dictate what the news is to people. No, we're here to provide a reflection of society and where it is at right now, and hopefully provide some information and some entertainment, right? And I think that's for the good. I really do.
Well, we need to wake up Canadians, because if there's another floor crosser, they get the majority. Unfortunately, I don't know where else this is going, but I've heard anywhere from 2 to 3 more potential floor crossers are going over. These are from my sources out east. Okay, well, that's why I try to say is that we need to, as Canadians, and I'm going to make some content on this, is we need to do something to show that we're not in agreement with what's happening from liberals, from NDP, from conservatives, because we elected a minority government, and for them to just take it away with backroom deals, and then have all of these bills that are problematic, at least right now. Even so, if you're a liberal out there supporter, at least with this minority government, there's some things that conservatives, they're having the open debate over these bills, saying, hey, these are problematic. Once they get the majority, there's going to be zero debate. It's just going to be, these bills are approved, and it's going to be a very scary situation in Canada.
Yeah, they can like closure and force debates to close. Oh, there's all kinds of stuff they can do when they have they'll have majority on committees, all committees, or most of the committees, and so yeah, it's real scary what it means if we get there.
Yeah. All right, chat. So we're near on 2 hours. We'll probably do a last couple minutes here. Thank you so much, Ryan, for taking the time. You know what I do have to say is that Ryan and I have been talking for some time last year, and I apologize. I've been I'm quite busy. I'm trying to roll out as many things as possible. Now this year, I'm starting to do live streams. The thing is I obviously have a few more technical things, but once I get it going, then it's going to be nice and smooth. So I appreciate you coming on. And one of the things that I wanted the reason I wanted to have Ryan on is because he has that different perspective, so that it would be an interesting conversation between the two of us, because we don't think completely the same, even though he's come and he's part of the conservative movement, but we do have differences. But it appears that we actually agree on a lot more things than what I expected before we went into this.
Yeah, and I think I would love to come back. I'd love to explore. I think there's lots of topics we can go through, and again, I encourage anyone who's here who may be questioning me or question my authenticity, reach out to me. My website, politicalpulse.ca. come over there and subscribe to my Substack and my podcast there. Reach out to me on X. I'm active there. Ryan L. Painter is my handle. You can, look, I'm an open book. I really am not afraid to have conversations. I'm really not afraid to own up to my history and to say where I'm at now. And I think we all need to be equally as open to conversations around politics. Politics, they say you shouldn't discuss two things, religion and politics. Now, I don't know about the religion side. I'll leave that there. But I do think we need to be more comfortable talking about politics. Talk about it with your friends. Talk about it with your family, because politics shapes society. Politics shapes culture. And if we do not get a handle on being able to have these conversations, and we continue to kind of be complacent about what's happening all around us, the decisions are made for us. And then where are we at? So there's stuff that we can do to have these conversations. Marc, thank you so much for bringing me on. It was a real pleasure being here. And it was a pleasure seeing all of these amazing folks here chiming in. I see there's a birthday. Happy birthday, Andrew. I just saw that come through. So
yeah,
there's appears to be a birthday in the team. And yeah, let's keep the conversation going. I'm happy to come back anytime, and yeah, reach out.
So I'm gonna put the links to your social media in the either comment or description, so you guys that are watching could come back and click on those so that you could follow Ryan and see what he's doing. Before we end, and yeah, we'll do this again for sure. I'm very interested in the live discussions because I feel like Canadians like to participate. So we've been looking at the chat, and so thank you everybody for contributing to the live with the questions. I have a few additional things that I want to cover, and I saw it inside the chat. So there is a petition, and I'd like you guys to go. If you're going to do one thing today, let me find the petition because I had it. It was actually part of one of the things I was going to show people today. Here, I'm going to find it. So go over to my Twitter X account, but let's just show it. There's a petition. Go and click here. I might retweet it so it's at the top again. But you go to the petition. This petition's the E7025. It currently has 43,000 signatures. And this petition here is that people, if they want to cross floors, they have to step down and have a by-election. Let the people decide.
I'll sign that petition. Absolutely.
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, if you feel like that's what they. Yeah. So if you feel that way, this is a petition. It's open. It's already received. Look, it opened. It's been open for some time. It was since the last floor crosser. So it's open until April 17th. So go ahead and sign that if you would like them to bring this forwards as a petition. I also have a couple more statistics just before we go. First, I want to show you this thing. So Canada is way down here. Look at the growth of China. Yeah. US is slowly creeping down. Why are we attacking our industries when we literally, if we didn't exist tomorrow, it would make zero difference? And a lot of the stuff that we're doing is we're importing the CO2 to other countries. So for example, it's really interesting. We're the plastic bags and all the different things, we're shipping it to other countries, but we can't use it ourselves. Mm-hmm. And they can't even respond in an appropriate manner with that. It's the things we're doing in this country is so frustrating. And then I also want to show everybody this chart. This is just so that people could visually see this. Exports by country: US, China, UK, Mexico, and the other one is Japan. This is just take a look at this. Why are we traveling? Mark Carney's in the air like every second day. He's on a plane flying around, burning jet fuels, trying to get these trade deals. If the USMCA were to blow up at the end of June, look at this chart.
Yeah.
The number one focus, you need to be nice to Donald Trump. He's not the type of person that if you insult Donald Trump, he'll make you pay. He'll punish you. We need somebody to be like, I understand we could be mad at Donald Trump for being patriotic, and we've been friends for the beginning of time, and I agree. Like, what he's done is put America first. We put ourselves in this terrible position for not diversifying for so long. And it wasn't just liberals. It was all, Canadian politicians. We always but liberals really accelerated to be just like America only. And because we did this, like, we need to get to zero emissions. And so we need to stop all these, and we already have doubled down with US trade. So we just need to weather the storm for 3 years. And one of the ways to do that is to make Donald Trump feel like he won something. Like, how serious is this bridge? I would be like, Donald Trump, like, make him, you don't need to give up much to make him feel like he won something. And also be nice to him. Be nice to him in public. Be nice to him with our media is just so ruthless against Donald Trump. So like, and Doug Ford, and these attack ads, like everything we're doing is affecting this major trading, like our biggest trading part. All these others don't matter. We need to solve them, and we can't resolve this overnight. This will take a decade to fix. So in the meantime, we need to fix our relationship with the United States, also diversify, but it's going to take a decade. So I just want people to see this chart to visually understand. And then I also want to show this is my last chart, I promise. This is a visualization of what the liberals have done to this country. Okay. Look at, since year 2000, the population growth is in red. But look at what happened after. It's just crazy. That's why we don't have family doctors. That's why our healthcare system's broken. That's why they're offering,
yeah.
That's why they're offering MAID to everybody. Like, it's out of control, and it's still out of control. Unfortunately, there was like 5 million people that their visas were expiring. We still don't know where those people are or what's happening there. They're not giving us any updates. To be honest with you, this is the least transparent government in Canadian history. And they're looking to get even more power to be even less transparent, like delete within 15 days. They're going to delete all their communication. I don't know if you guys saw that one. That was just in the last 2 weeks. So yeah, anyway, that's enough for the charts. And that's it. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching the show. Ryan, we'll be in touch. Thank you so much. And I'm going to put a link to all his social media in the comment section and pin it. Okay.
Thanks, Mark. Bye, everybody.